It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
You know, if you're a grindcore band, you're going to have the blast beat. The main thing about the blast beat is the drums. The drums are going a million miles an hour, and the guitar and the bass is keeping up, and the singer is usually not very comprehensible. And that's why it's helpful for bands to include lyrics.
Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If you'd be so kind, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hey, I'm Richard from Drugs of Faith.
And Richard, how would you describe the music of Drugs of Faith?
The genre that we play in is grind and roll. We take a few different genres and mix them together in our songs.
So you were nice enough to do a Q&A with me a few years ago when Decay was released. And I asked you the same question, and you directed me to a quote from Albert from Decibel, who described Drugs of Faith as the world's blast-friendliest noise rock band.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that characterization?
I like the categorization. We don't call ourselves a noise rock band, but we've been trying to add noise rock into our sound. I mean, I think it's been natural that it started coming in a few releases ago, but, we like playing like that. You know how bands do this sometimes where they decide, I want to go in this direction on our next record, that kind of thing. Like with Decay, the EP that you mentioned, we decided we wanted to be more extreme on that overall on that release. So that's something that we like to push a little more, trying to get some of that on the guitar, that kind of thing.
The skronk.
Skronk, yeah.
So I'm going to ask an incredibly pedantic question.
Oh, please.
I believe you're an expert in this field, so I think your insight is valuable.
I hope so.
What is grindcore? How would you define grindcore?
It's more of the music than the lyrics. I mean, grindcore is associated with having political lyrics where the bands are trying to talk about something that's important to them. The lyrics might be very broad, just talking about I hate capitalism or whatever, or it could be something very specific about societal pressures affecting people. You know, something like Napalm Death would write about. But the way I look at it is it's more of a sound because, Repulsion, one of the OGs of grindcore, I think the lyrics they write are like death metal, they're writing about zombies and stuff. So it's mostly about the tempo. If you're a grindcore band, you're going to have the blast beat. The main thing about the blast beat is the drums. The drums are going a million miles an hour, and the guitar and the bass is keeping up, and the singer is usually not very comprehensible. And that's why it's helpful for bands to include lyrics in their records. We do the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's just trying to be extreme and try to find different ways to be extreme, I think. I mean, talk about Napalm Death again, they would do, even going back to their first album, they sort of experimented. Back when they did their first record back in the 80s, it was still very new. So, you could say the bands back then were still trying to find how they're going to do this a little bit, So it's very distorted. Usually it's the guitars are down tuned, just trying to play as hard as they can.
Yeah. What led you to grindcore originally? How did you discover the music?
When you get the way it used to be anyway, and it must be this way for people. When you get into hard music like death metal and thrash and grind and hardcore and all that, especially with metal, you check out a band and then you want to see if there's a band that goes faster or slower or more extreme or more gross or more shocking than the last band that you heard. So if you like it enough that you want to start digging, you start reading the magazines and the zines and going to the record store and trying to find out about the next band. So I did that, and it was very helpful for me to have my zine because I would get demos in the mail because I promoted my zine a lot. So I did the same thing as everybody else. I'd hear or I'd write to some band or some band would send something to me in the mail for review, and I'd go, wow, this is crazy. One of the times I was really shocked, it was the first time I heard Carcass. So then, that just kept the ball rolling. A band that really pushed boundaries was Human Remains, and the later Gorguts records. And it just goes on and on. So searching for those extremes brought me to grindcore. And that's something that resonated with me because I was into hardcore. I would listen to stuff like Agnostic Front and the Cro-Mags and Sick of It All. And, some of the roots of grindcore are in death metal, but they're also in hardcore. You could say that, the earlier bands were kind of a mix of those things. So that's how I stumbled upon some of this stuff.
So you mentioned your zine,
Mm-hmm.
Disposable Underground.
Mm-hmm.
Were you doing the zine before you started writing and recording your own music, or did they happen around the same time?
Around the same time.
What led you to form specifically a grindcore band?
I formed the band with Mason, and we were at the same place at the same time in doing that kind of music. We had tried doing something before that, and we wrote some songs and it didn't work out. And then we decided to try playing grind and then I could go into the whole history of the band.
Yeah. I think I'm more interested in your journey as a songwriter, like
Mm-hmm.
picking up guitar and deciding to write these these super fast, super short songs.
Yeah.
What was it about that format that you liked? What drew you to grindcore specifically?
The super fast, super short songs was a lot of that was us just drawing heavily on our influences, you know.
Right.
And unless somebody just comes out of the box with something completely original, you know, a lot of bands do that, and then hopefully they start to come up with their own ideas later. So it was like that. And we would try to throw in different things like, you know, the cliche of a band like Voivod or Discordance Axis is that they have, you know, dissonant chords. So we tried to throw those in. And as we went along, we tried to bring different influences into the songs. We tried to have different beats that weren't just, you know, a punk beat or a blast beat or a Slayer beat, you know, not just having those. So the band, I mean, later on, some of the last stuff that we did before the band ended, there was some kind of I don't want to use the word rock, but it's kind of within that format, kind of I don't know what to call it, kind of rocky, like upbeat, crunchy, moshy parts. I don't know. And I kind of feel like the seeds of what I ended up doing in Drugs of Faith were in there.
Yeah. The more upbeat, kind of skronky kind of side that you guys.
Yeah, I wouldn't say noise rock. You know, like just stuff like gink gat, gink gat, gink gat. You know, we made more
Okay.
room for stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like double bass parts with some groove in them. More groove, I guess I would say. So I guess, you know, I guess it gets old to there's some bands that just stick to their guns and like, no, I just want to play like side A and side B of Scum and maybe a little From Enslavement to Obliteration. I just want to do that for my entire writing career, and that's cool, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, you hear bands talking about this too. As you keep playing, you realize that you can do different things with the guitar, you know. And I started doing things like and Mason would do this too, where he would take a bar chord and he would take some of the notes out of it, you know, and we would play a chord like that and it would sound a little more gnarly that way, you know.
Yeah.
And we would throw those into Enemy Soil. And then so by the time I got into Drugs of Faith, I ended up doing a lot more of these chords that aren't just, you know, power chords, you know, the 3-note standard power chord that's been traditional and rock. Well, I mean, in normal rock music, you'll have those, but you also have, you know, normal bar chords too. So I started using a lot more chords that aren't just that, trying to do something different with them, you know.
Do you feel like Drugs of Faith is a continuation of where you finished off with Enemy Soil?
You know, there's blast beats and I still write about some politics in this band. I did Mason and I did that in Enemy Soil. And also there was a lot of there were a lot of songs that were complaining about relationships. Well, I guess Enemy Soil wasn't really like that. It was more like complaining about being depressed, that kind of shit. I would write some of that. Maybe not a lot, but some. And there were some relationship griping songs earlier on in Drugs of Faith too. But now I'm just talking about, you know, the state of the world kind of lyrics, you know, the things I have a problem with about politics, the way people are being treated. You know, it kind of makes me sound. I guess some of my lyrical influences are the same as they've always been.
And I'd like to speak about some of the themes that you explore on this latest album.
Okay, great.
With regard to your songwriting, in terms of the music, well, I guess how does it start? how does a song start? Does it always start with guitar? Do you sometimes have a vocal lyric in mind before you start? Do you sometimes start with the drums?
There might be some lyric. If I have a lyric, it's something that's left over that I've written and I don't know what to do with it. Or, I wrote a lyric and there was some left over, so I'll have some of that to draw from. But when we're putting together a record, let's say we'll have a bunch of songs and I've written some lyrics and I sit there and try to figure out which one fits on which song. There's a lot of that. Usually I'll have a riff. It's got, it all starts there. And then maybe there'll be, if I'm lucky, I'll have two or three that I think go together. Once in a while, I'll have what I think is a whole song. And what Ethan and I do is, I show it to him, and drummers will go, what kind of beat do you want on this? So I'll have an idea about that, but nothing really specific. Maybe I'll just say double bass, or this is a blast beat, or just something really general like that, and he'll end up coming up with something cool and interesting. And what we'll do is we spend a lot of time trying to make sure that the song flows well. We want it to sound good, starting from the beginning through to the end.
Once you have the riffs, do you arrange it on your own before you play them for for Ethan? Or do you guys tend to arrange stuff together?
I might just have a couple of ideas and I'll show them to him, and then I'll say, I don't know what to do after that. Either that, or I might have a whole song. And Ivan, the bass player, has written some riffs too, and I'll have those on file. And I might go, what would be cool is if we used one of those bass parts here. And what I have to do then is usually write a guitar riff that fits over the bass part.
Do you ever demo stuff with a drum machine on like a DAW or something like that?
Well, the last time I did that was during the lockdowns, because I wrote some of the riffs for this stuff during the lockdowns, and then by the time we started getting together, then I would show them to Ethan. Ethan and I live close enough together, but Ivan doesn't. So when he's in town and we get to practice and we don't have to just spend time preparing for the show, then we'll have time to jam with him, and he'll throw an idea in here and there too. So that helps as well.
So on the 21st of February, the third Drugs of Faith album, titled Asymmetrical, will be released through Self-Made God Records. We spoke a little bit about your musical journey and the way Drugs of Faith has been employing more noise rock elements into the sound. Was there a specific sound that you had in mind for this album?
I like that the few comments that we've gotten so far is that they're noticing that it's more rock. And I think that's cool, because I think that shows that we're not just, making the first album over again or something like that. I just like having that more of that element in the band, because it's not just relying on being our version of extreme
right
the whole time, and there's more variety. So, well, one of the reasons we called it the record asymmetrical is because we feel like it doesn't have a direction. There's a song and there's another one, there's another one, and I spent a lot of time trying to decide what the order of the record should be so it'll have a good flow. And then for the LP, what song's going to start the second side. So there's a total lack of some kind of a theme to it. So I just hope that people, when they hear the whole record, they'll go, that record's cool. I like it. That would be great. Instead of, we don't want anybody to say, well, that was just kind of a mess.
Yeah. But does the title also correspond with some of the lyrics? Because it does seem like the lyrics do address imbalances in society and in the world. Asymmetrical in that sense.
I didn't think about it that way. It was more of but that's an interesting point that you make. It was more of the same way that I was talking about the music. Got a song about this and a song about that. And with some of the songs, I made this comment that it might have more than one idea in it. So it's just not following exactly one track all the way through. So the lyrics are kind of all over the place also. Hopefully in a good way, in a good way.
Yeah. One of the things I always liked about grindcore in the few times that I actually wrote grindcore songs is that if you're working in a 3 to 5 minute format, sometimes you run out of ways to express, things to say. You know what I mean? Like the song goes longer than you actually have lyrics or ideas that you want to express. Mm-hmm. Whereas with grindcore and, the very short songs, it's almost like being a stand-up comedian, giving off one-liners. You can say everything that's on your mind and, and not run out of, not have space to fill. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you have no problem working within those limitations. How it's supposed to force creativity if you put constraints on yourself.
Right, yeah.
Sounds like with you, it's not a constraint.
I mean, I feel like this was a complaint I have about Saturday Night Live. Very tangential, but this is kind of how I feel about it. Like, you have a funny concept, but then you have 6 minutes to fill. And so how many times are you going to beat the joke to death? Do you know what I mean? Like, we got it in like the first 30 seconds. Mm. And I feel like grindcore is kind of this way where you could say exactly what's on your mind and not have to over explain it. It's like, this is bad and this makes me angry and we need to do something about it.
Yeah.
Or I'm mad at my girlfriend right now because, she left my sweater out and the cat tore it up.
There you go. You got a song right there. Boom.
Exactly.
Well, the thing about with it, like a sketch, and they front load the concept and the jokes,
right?
A good sketch will develop, and then maybe in the middle they'll really get into it, something like that, maybe.
Yeah.
And if you're writing a really short grindcore song, you're not allowing yourself to let it build up.
Yeah, that's true too. And you yourself have done some comedy, right?
Well, I did what do you call it? I did an open mic night.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't write any new material. I just pulled jokes off the internet,
Okay.
which I admitted to at the beginning of it. But what it was a friend of ours who's well, let's see, she used to be at NASA, and she used to do these things called science comedy. And so that was the theme, you know. You had to at least part of your set had to be about science, had to be science jokes, you know. So I pulled a bunch of science one-liners off the internet and I did them. It was a lot of fun.
So you do writing in print, you also write music, and you've done some comedy. Do you find like there's a, I don't know, like an overarching kind of similarity to writing in general, where no matter what format you take, like there's a flow to it, you know, you've got your beginning, middle, and end, you know, hero's journey almost, like you're trying to tell a story.
Well, I guess there's some lyrics I wrote that where it when you're just reading it, it just looks like, you know, a three-paragraph essay or something, you know, like you'd never know that it was a song lyric. And that kind of thing has if you want to call it the beginning and the middle and an end, you know, I want to put in I don't want it to just stop.
Right.
There's lyrics, a lot of lyrics I've written, I'm just thinking this is the thing I want to talk about, and I'm thinking of this, and this, and that's it. And okay, the song's over, you know? So there's no structure. I guess maybe I could, with a song like that, if there was no limit to the how long the song is, if we were going to write an 8-minute song, then I could just go on,
Right.
keep going on.
I mean, that's the other thing that makes grindcore, I think, unique, is that a lot of bands don't conform to a verse chorus verse kind of structure. Do you know what I mean? Like a lot of times it's like this asymmetrical, to use your term,
Yeah.
kind of way that the tempos are arranged and the way that the riffs are arranged. So you never really, sometimes you never really come back to a part. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I've done that once or twice where the song just goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever, and then the song's over.
Yeah.
And what I like to do with a band once in a while is I'll listen to it and I'll write it down. You know, like a really good example of this is Massive Madness by Napalm Death,
Yeah.
where it's this, I don't know what it is exactly, but it's sort of like A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, G, I, J, K, J, K, you know, L, M, N, and then they play C and D again or something at the end.
Yeah.
So they pack a ton of riffs into it, but it's still at least got something that repeats, you know? And I've figured out over the years that it's good to have a little hook, which actually I don't really think about now that I'm talking about it. I don't think about it as far as the lyrics, and I really should. We'll have riffs that'll come back, and maybe in the same order, you know, like two that go together, first chorus or whatever. But it's good to have, if you can come up with a good little, like a catchphrase, a little catchy thing, and you can put it in there somewhere and then bring it back. And it's good to have something to latch onto when you listen to a song, you know? Even if it's not well, I mean, people can go, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, and I haven't been thinking about that, so I should do that again in the future.
But you don't really do choruses with Drugs of Faith, right?
I guess not.
Any reason or?
You know what? I don't know which one it is. Discordance Axis did these reissues of their records. And, you know, those are the ones that came back out and they were in the DVD box, you know?
Yeah.
And John Chang wrote a lot of liner notes talking about the band and the process and everything. And on one of those, he said it's lazy to repeat lyrics. And I think I took that to heart. So I don't do that very much, I think.
Yeah. But do you like the sing along element?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I like that with other bands, you know?
Right. Okay.
I mean, I don't know. What, Slayer?
Right. Yeah.
There's so many parts that you can that that come back around. I don't know, I can't think of a song right now, but it's one of those bands where they're classic stuff, you know all the lyrics anyway, so you can sing along to the whole song, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
South of Heaven or something.
Do you want to talk about some of the things you sing about on this album?
Sure.
I mean, we don't necessarily need to go song by song, but it does seem like global inequality is something that you come back to,
Yeah.
as well as like the way our resources are dwindling.
Yeah.
When you write, are you inspired by things that you read in articles or newspapers?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
There's that, and I draw imagery from books and films. That's a real cliche. I mean, everybody does that. But for on this record, for example, I'll put I'm thinking of something specific, and I think it fits into the whatever the theme of the song is. So I'll try to evoke that in the lyrics, and hope that that helps further it along. I've written lyrics that are a lot more. I have this tendency to write vague lyrics, and I struggle writing lyrics, and I feel like I'm always afraid that they're too vague. And I mean, I hope people enjoy reading them anyway, or if not reading them, at least think that they sound good when I'm yelling them in the song. But yeah, it's just difficult. I somebody brought up gas mask on their blog, and I really appreciated what they said. They described my lyrics as acerbic, and I thought that was a nice compliment. But sometimes I think I should strive for that, and I mean be more direct while still trying to be artistic. You know,
Right.
I don't want to just say, I don't know, throw a brick through a bank window or something.
Right. Yeah. You interview a lot of bands. I don't know if you've noticed this, but when I speak to bands about their lyrics, sometimes I get vague non-answers about, well, people can interpret it for themselves. Do you know what I mean? Which I always take to mean, they're not necessarily that comfortable talking about something that may be very personal. You know what I mean? But how do you feel about that? Do you feel like once your lyrics go out into the world, people are free to interpret them how they want, or do you want them to be interpreted in a very deliberate way?
Well, I guess if I wanted them to be deliberate, I mean, interpreted very specifically, I would be more specific about what I'm writing. There was this trend in hardcore, and speaking of, well, it wasn't Human Remains, it was Burnt by the Sun. They did this on a couple of their records where the singer they'll have the lyrics, but then the singer will talk about the lyric to make sure that you understand what it is that he's talking about.
Right. Yeah.
And in the case of that band, it was a he. I understand this whole thing about I'm not going to tell you what my art means. If you don't get any meaning out of it, then I guess that's too bad. Bands are like that. I don't mind talking about what I was thinking when I was writing it, but I'm not telling people. Well, I'll use this quote from Godflesh. Do you remember the Hard and Heavy videos? And he says, we're not telling you think this, we're saying, what do you think?
Interesting. Okay.
Which I think is great. I mean, I'm not writing lyrics that way, but I've written I've written lyrics that are about a very specific thing that happened. And this is getting back to, the griping about relationships lyrics that I've written. And I can understand a band going, yeah, I don't want to play this song anymore because I don't want to keep singing these lyrics because it's tough.
Right.
I totally get that. I guess, but I think there's a way that you can divorce yourself from it, you know, and just perform and say, I'm playing a show here, and I'm not in Rites of Spring, I'm just trying to put on a metal show.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Where did you end up recording this album?
Oh, was that Developing Nations? That's in Baltimore, with Kevin Bernstein. He's recorded a bunch of bands around the DMV, as we call the area. And then bands have come in from different places to record with him. He's done Pianos Become the Teeth, Ilsa. I'm trying to think of like the big bands that he's done.
He's recorded a few bands who've been on this podcast.
Oh, okay.
Full of Hell.
Full of Hell, yep.
Noisome.
Yep.
A lot of the bands from the DC, Virginia, Maryland area, right?
Yeah.
And he recorded Decay, right? Your previous EP?
Mm-hmm.
What do you like about working with Kevin?
Well, he really had how should I put it, a big hand in how Asymmetrical turned out. And he helped me find a great guitar tone. And he'll make suggestions. Not a producer type suggestion. Well, like where a producer will say, no, I need you to do it this way, or we're going to cut this song in half, or whatever a producer is going to do. But more like, hey, the way that bend is supposed to be, it's supposed to be like this. And then I'll say, well, I do that on purpose. And then I'll go, okay. That happened. There's some noise effects on the record that he just came up with on the spot that were awesome. We've been recording with him for a long time, so he sort of knows what I'm going to say in advance about what the guitar tone I'm going to ask for is and how it plays with the bass. he wants to make sure that you get a good take, and he'll give you a hard time, but it's all in fun, so it's a good atmosphere.
Is he a stickler on the performance side?
Yeah, I mean, if it's going to take you 10 times to make sure that it's on, then, well, I've done a lot of, sometimes over the years with the records we've done with them, had to do takes several times. And I guess maybe at some point he'll cut it off and go, well, look, let me just fix this because it's not happening. That's just something that, you know, engineers will do. But he tries to get it as natural as he can. He just doesn't he doesn't want to record just a bunch of bullshit and then try to clean it all up later.
Right.
I mean, there's cleanup in the mixing process naturally.
Yeah. You spoke about working with Kevin on the guitar tone.
Yeah.
What was it about the guitar tone that you were looking for?
I've been lately trying to get a sort of a clean but yet still distorted guitar tone. Kind of with this band, I've had this what we referred to as a jangle, you know, talking about the noise rock, the Gang of Four type of a thing, you know,
Okay.
but still be heavy. So there's like there's a balance there. And then the bass will still be distorted. But so I always I always talk about how I want the guitar and the bass to come together and make the riff, you know? And that's a big Voivod influence that I've got. So then so let's say he'll do a mix and then I'll say, can you make more room for the bass? That kind of thing.
Okay.
And then and then there's been times where he just went ahead and did that because he knew what I was going to say. You know? Yeah, you got to please the customer, right?
Does Kevin handle everything up to the master?
Right. He recorded it, he engineered it, and he mixed it. And he tells us, like when like I was saying about him making sure we got the right take, and he'll make suggestions, and he won't tell us what to do. I tried this thing vocally, and he goes, well, that's great, but I think that's too out of character, you know? And I could have said, I'm going to keep it, but I really trust his opinion, and value his opinion.
Yeah. It's interesting because some engineers are they really stick with the the engineering side, like specifically to the technical side. And then there are some engineers, like I spoke to someone who worked with an engineer who was almost like a coach, like trying to get them to play tighter, and was really focused on the performance side. But it sounds like Kevin is almost like an old school producer where like he has an idea of what the record should sound like.
I've asked him if he wanted a producer credit, and he said no. So he's not going to that level. He has great ideas. I wouldn't say he was shaping the record like a producer did, but the stuff that he contributed to it shaped it. Helped to make it what it is.
Okay.
I think even he wouldn't go that far as to say he acted as a producer.
Okay. Fair enough.
That's a whole other thing.
Right. So the album will be released near the end of February. Do you have plans for the rest of the year as far as shows and tours and things like that?
We want to do a bunch of weekends. We haven't really talked about doing a tour. If we do a tour, that'll be the third one that we've done in the band. So we only have it's only been one-offs lately. So when the record comes out, we want to play more, but we haven't tried to book anything yet. So we're going to get on it. We had this idea of going to the West Coast and playing a few shows, you know, we're gonna have to get out the Rolodex for that. We'll see what happens. I mean, I hope that we play some festivals. We've done that a few times.
Do you have any festivals that you really enjoy that are at the top of your list? You have one in your backyard.
Oh
That's
yeah,
pretty
I
popular.
mean, I love going to Maryland Death Fest. I go every year. I love the Metal and Beer Fest from Decibel. I've gone to a couple of the, the Terror Fests. There's the Northwest and the Southwest. Are there three of those? Or is that all of them? Right now, I can't remember.
I'm not sure. I only know I've been to Terror Fest. I know there's one in Austin. I'm not sure what else there.
Yeah, there was a Northwest one, I think, and it might have been around Seattle and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just drawing a blank right now. I've been to those a couple of times. I really enjoyed those too. Some of them have a good atmosphere, you know.
Droughts, floods, heat waves, fires, and hurricanes! They never stop! Food riots, climate refugees, resource wars! No hiding on the garbage patch from leaks of a natural gas! Water is the new currency! Clean air will cost us! Canopies for some! Lead pipes for others! I'm forced into service! To pay back my ticket! Like way to a new world! The colonies begin again! Living under heel while amongst the stars, humanity expands! And landowners along with them! Will we ever return to our home? Well, the investors didn't get a return!
So, Asymmetrical
Yeah.
will be released on the 21st of February through Self-Made God Records. Richard, please tell everyone how they can order the album. What's the best way to get it?
Yes, so with Self-Made God, you can go to the website. The record will be sitting there. You can order it on CD. And it's also on Bandcamp, it'll be on Bandcamp on release day. And you'll be able to get it that way. Self-Made God, just like a lot of labels, has all of their records up on their Bandcamp, and that'll be one of them. And then it'll be on Spotify and Apple Music. And then Malicool is putting out the LP version. And they've got a web store, a Big Cartel. So Malicool is Nolan from Genocide Pack's label.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, he puts on a lot of brutal stuff. And I don't know, Drugs of Faith might be the least brutal of all the bands that he's released. I don't know about that. I'll have to ask him. I feel like there's been a few shows we played where we were the most extreme band on the bill, but that's only happened, I think, a couple of times. I feel like usually when we play with bands or some band on the bill that are more extreme than we are. We're in kind of a middle place. Anyway, so he's doing the LP, and so he'll have that on Bandcamp and at his web store, and then we're gonna have it on our Bandcamp, the Drugs of Faith Bandcamp too. Right now, it's up for pre-order, so you can pre-order it either from Self-Made God, for the CD or the digital, or you could do the same thing with Malicool to get the LP.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned your own Bandcamp page. Is that where most of your merch is going through?
Yeah, well, we don't have any shirts on there, but we've got, let's see, 3 of our records. You can actually get the CDs and the LPs, so you can get Decay that we talked about, and then our last album, Corroded, and also Architectural Failures, one of our EPs. You can buy the physical records from us there. But also the same thing goes for those too. Nolan on Malicool put out Architectural Failures, so he's still got copies of that. Decay came out on Self-Made God, and so did Corroded, and he's still got copies of that at his website too. But anyway, on our Bandcamp, we've got a lot of other bits and pieces up there too.
Okay, cool.
That aren't available anymore, but you can get them there.
And if people want to get updates on tours and things like that, or shows, I guess, one-off shows that you might be playing, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so we post about all that stuff just like everybody does on social media. I just joined Blue Sky yesterday with the band, and then we're on all of Mark Zuckerberg's platforms. And I signed up for a couple of those music streaming sites. You know how there's the one, is it Songkick, that talks to Bandcamp?
I'm not sure.
So then when you make sure that the show's on Songkick, it'll like flow into when you go to the Bandcamp, the show will be listed there.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
I can't remember if it's Songkick or if it's something else. And then, I make sure that our shows are on Last FM.
Okay.
We post all of our shows that we're going to play on our website. And then I've got a list of all the shows we ever played on there.
Drugsoffaith.com.
Yeah. That's just nerd stuff there. Is it Songkick?
I'm not sure.
Well, you know what I'm talking about? Whatever the platform is. Or do you know what I'm talking
Bands in
about?
Town? That's the only one I know about as far as shows.
Was it that one? Somebody let us know in the comments. I'm getting into like technical stuff here. When you go to a Bandcamp and it'll have, the bio of the band, and then
Richard, I just saw our future 10 years from now. 2 old guys not understanding how the internet works anymore.
Yeah, we'll be sitting here going like this. How do you do that again? I don't understand. Yeah, I just can't remember which one it is, but when you go to Bandcamp and it's got the bio of the band, and then if they have any shows, they'll be listed there. And you're like, I had to look it up. I couldn't tell how to do that. And then, Bandcamp says, "Oh, you should sign up to this other place," and then it'll automatically update.
Okay. Cool.
It's the wonders of modern technology.
Do you want to give any updates on some of your other projects?
Yeah, I've got this thing we call it's an electronic industrial project called Digital Negative. And we've got 2 EPs out, and we finished the third. So we're going to be, announcing that, like after the Drugs of Faith record's out, we'll start working on announcing that. That's that's just totally different. I'm doing that with Daniel. He's played in some bands, and he's most known as Person 918X online. And I play bass in Palau. It's a hardcore band with blast beats. We recorded songs for a split, so that's going to come out at some point. You know how it is, you record, but then you have to get the cover together and finish the record off and everything. I think we and get it mastered and blah blah blah, do all that stuff. It's not ready to come out yet. I did this thing with a couple of guys. It's kind of a power violence, grind thing. And it's one of those things that you just throw it on Bandcamp, and then that's the end of it. It's called Mind Leak. And I've posted about that on social media. And a couple of things that are past that I might as well bring up while I'm talking about it is there was this band called Project Failing Flesh, and there was these 2 guys, one of whom is a producer who's produced some high profile stuff, and his brother, and they had a band with this guy from Voivod, and it was called Project Failing Flesh. So not the producer guy, but the other one, Tim. I did a rock and roll project with him. He's way into surf rock. So we did kind of a surf rock, old school kind of rock and roll with a little bit of an edge. It's called The Neanderverbs. And that's on, we did a CD, and I talk about stuff you're proud of. I'm really proud of how that came out. It's totally outside of my wheelhouse. It was a big stretch. Using a lot of muscles that I don't use, that all of that stuff. I did this project with Rich Hoke and Eric Burke, and we called it Rot Triad. It's an instrumental project. That's on Bandcamp too. Because we did the thing. We never played any shows, and it was a one shot. I'm really happy with that too. That was a real blast. It's very different. I played bass in it, and it's got this way that Eric Burke plays guitar. He referred to himself once as a one-trick pony. And I really like the way Rich Hoke plays. There's a lot of parts that are mid-paced, so he's not doing a bunch of crazy, like Brutal Truth stuff. So it shows another side of his playing. And what I was trying to do is do kind of like a Godflesh, kind of a bass.
Okay, cool.
So it's all like 3 different things coming together, and I like that a lot. So those are some of the major things that I've done over the past several years that I'd like to mention.
Very cool. Thank you so much, Richard. I appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you. I really enjoyed it. It was good talking to you.
Tell you how to live. to the grave, or so you like to believe. But we allow ourselves to be led, just the simplest bristle at the thought of the thoughts we're fed. Scream into the void alone, or empty your mind. A simple token in the rage economy.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.